Good afternoon. There are so many Joey stories to choose from. Where do I even begin? I met Joey 24 years ago when I joined the Wadsworth division of Cengage and inherited him, as they say, from my predecessor. Joey's supervisor, who was one of my direct reports, had already put in her 2-week notice that she was set to retire. So at the end of my first week on the job, she sat down with me to give me an assessment of all of her folks on the Marcom team. When she got to Joey, she said, and I quote, "Now Joey, he's my problem child. You may have to let him go." I thought. The label problem child doesn't sound so good. So I kept my eye on this Joey character, paying special attention to his work so I could judge for myself. And soon it was very clear what I needed to do. I scheduled a lunch meeting with Joey away from the office where I sat him down and I promoted him. It was so obvious that this guy's talents were being stifled in the original role he was in. It was like trying to make a nuclear power plant behave like a AA battery. I remember he just sort of stared at me when I gave him the news of his new promotion into a creative management role. Years later, after Joey and I established a personal friendship, he told me that when I'd scheduled that lunch meeting with him, he was certain that I was about to fire him and that I didn't want him crying at the office. Thus the restaurant, thus the blank stare. But that was Joey, always doing work that absolutely warranted recognition, and then looking somewhat dumbfounded when he actually got it. One of Joey's first big assignments in his new role was to help me somehow get more mind share for our publishing division at the upcoming annual sales meeting. I suggested he make a product training video that we could run on hotel monitors and on the hotel's private TV channel, so we could bombard the sales force with our messaging even during coffee breaks or late night channel surfing. I said the video had to be instructional. Joey said it had to be funny. I said each product segment had to contain at least 5 key selling points. Joey said no more than 3 or we'd bore people. Guess who won? Of course, Joey. And our new video program, a series of SNL-style comedy sketches known as WAD TV, was a hit. Because I was new to the company, Joey had suggested we introduce me to the sales force, hundreds of complete strangers, through a brief segment at the beginning of our first of many WAD TV videos. I agreed it was a smart move, and I gave him free rein to write my script. Big mistake. Joey had the camera at a close-up on my face as I put forth my most professional yet sincere look as I told the sales force that we in the home office knew how tough it could be in the field and that we were here to help. Then Joey had me close with the line, "So if you find yourself in a tough sales situation with a client who's being really difficult, just give us a call and we'll whip them into shape." As I delivered that line, Joey had the camera pull back to reveal my entire body, clad in a black leather dominatrix outfit, ominously gesturing with the leather whip in my hands. That was classic Joey. As he settled into his new management role, I loved watching Joey's thought process when hiring people. He didn't look for the perfect resume or the perfectly put together candidate. Once he even brought me the resume of a candidate who in his early 20s had already had something like 15 different jobs, each lasting a few months at most. I told him that was a huge red flag, and Joey said something like, "Yeah, but aren't you curious about him? Don't you want to just get him in here and find out what his story is?" Well, he brought the candidate in, mostly out of his weird fascination with this guy's track record, and he ended up hiring him. Because Joey didn't look for the perfect or the proven, he looked for the potential. And then he worked with that potential, encouraging and developing and challenging it, at times annoyingly so, until it was fully maximized. And that particular new hire, the one who had a 2-page list of short-term jobs before he even started shaving, he ended up having a really successful 9-year run with the company. All because one person was willing to give him a chance. Classic Joey. A few years after first meeting Joey, I moved on, taking a job with the video game company 3DO. My first day on the job, I learned that our inaugural television ad that was scheduled to start airing in 10 days was absolutely unusable due to its use of copyrighted footage. In other words, we'd likely get sued using it. First person I called was Joey. In a panic, I told him that I desperately needed him to make me a new TV ad, something he'd not yet done in his career, and that I needed it in 10 days, and I only had 10 grand to put behind the entire effort. Joey's response was something like, "Okay, you know that's a laughable budget and an insane deadline. Count me in." And 10 days later, the company had a new ad, and Joey had a new job. He often joked that that 10-day period during which he got little to no sleep was the longest job interview he'd ever had. And thanks to Joey, my new employer had an advertising campaign that wouldn't get us sued. Joey would save that trick for the next ad he produced. Now by now, you've likely seen the brilliantly irreverent parody ad that had a full-size battle tank, rented by Joey for the occasion, running down an innocent little fabric softener mascot. Our company attorney told us that we'd likely get sued within the first 2 weeks of airing Joey's ad nationally, but he was wrong. We got sued within the first 24 hours. Yep, thanks to Joey's desire to trash this adorable little bear, a team of attorneys with Lever Brothers came after our little video game company with a vengeance. Our one attorney explained very calmly to us that it would come down to one of two outcomes. Either the judge would think Joey's ad was funny and would rule that, as a parody, we were within our rights to have some fun at the Snuggle Bear's expense, or the judge would rule in favor of Lever Brothers and we'd be put out of business by the settlement. Lucky for us, the judge thought Joey's work was hysterical, so we didn't go under, and Joey and I still had our jobs. I love the look of unfettered giddiness on Joey's face in this picture of us holding the infamous parody Snuggle Bear. Joey looks like a guy who just won the lottery or just dodged another bullet from pushing the creative envelope, which he loved to do. You know when else I saw this giddy with excitement look? About a decade later, when Joey and I sat having dinner at Nice Matan restaurant in the Upper West Side of Manhattan, and Joey told me he'd met someone. I could quickly tell that this someone wasn't just anyone. This someone was likely the one. And I sensed that Joey already knew that too, although I suspect he didn't want to jinx it. Joey had been through a few personal storms at that point in his life, and the last time we'd had dinner at the very same restaurant, he was at a pretty low point. But he worked his butt off to get his life back on track, so having Nano come along and completely sweep him off his feet with her Long Island girl charms felt to me like Joey's reward. Nano, I know that you know how much Joey loved you and the girls. Maybe what you don't know, however, is the true depth of gratitude that those of us who knew and loved Joey prior to your arrival in his life have for you. We saw the love and the joy and the undeniable sense of contentment he had whenever he spoke about his little family. You loved him like he deserved to be loved, and you really showed up for him. Now it's time for those of us who love Joey to show up for you and for the girls. The three of you were everything Joey ever wanted in life, and for that, Nano, I thank you. It's no surprise that most of us felt a sense of utter shock when we heard the news of Joey's passing. How could someone so alive, with so much joy and curiosity and creativity left in him, leave us so soon? Still reeling with the shock of this enormous loss in our lives, I suspect that most of our minds took us to a favorite Joey story. A cherished memory, likely one that involved irreverence and laughter. Lots and lots of laughter. I believe that it is precisely these Joey stories that will help us to both grieve and to heal. And most importantly, to keep him with us always, in our hearts, in our minds, and in our funny bones. God, I love you, Joey, and I miss the heck out of you already. Until we meet again, my friend.